The Wild West, where a man's weapon decided whether he lived to see another sunrise. It might be a dust-covered revolver, a lever-action rifle, or a handmade pistol forged in a lonely frontier workshop. These weren't just tools. They were instruments of survival, the steel companions of lawmen, outlaws, and settlers carving lives from the unknown. Each firearm told a story of invention and endurance, of gunsmiths who shaped iron into opportunity, and of marksmen who trusted their lives to every pull of the trigger. Today, we uncover forgotten firearms that defined the frontier, weapons that turned craftsmen into legends, and gunpowder into history. Colt Walker Revolver, the hand cannon of the frontier. Built in 1847 for the Texas Rangers, the Colt Walker was more than a sidearm. It was raw power forged for survival. Weighing nearly 5 pounds, it fired a .44 caliber round with force unmatched by any handgun of its day. Its 6-shot cylinder gave soldiers and scouts repeating fire in a world ruled by single shots. The Walker's recoil was brutal, its smoke heavy, yet its impact reshaped firearm design across the frontier. Only a few hundred were made, but every later, Colt carried its spirit. When its thunder finally faded, the frontier demanded something leaner, quieter. A weapon built not for brute strength, but for precision. Somewhere in that silence, the next legend was already taking shape. Volcanic repeating pistol, the birth of the Winchester. Before the Winchester ruled the frontier, the volcanic repeating pistol tried to change how America fired a shot. Designed in the early 1850s, it used self-contained rocket ball ammunition, a bullet with its own powder charge sealed inside. The sleek lever-action design allowed multiple shots without reloading, a rare advantage in an era of single-shot pistols. Its innovation was remarkable, but its power was weak and its mechanism fragile. The company behind it collapsed before the weapon could prove itself. Yet the Volcanic's design inspired a young gunsmith named Oliver Winchester, who carried its ideas into a new generation of rifles. The Volcanic never conquered the West, but its failure lit the fuse for the rifle that would. And somewhere beyond its quiet end, the sound of progress was already loading its next round. Sharp's Buffalo Rifle, the gun that tamed the plains. When the horizon moved with herds of bison, one rifle ruled the open range, the Sharp's. Built for distance and accuracy, its heavy barrel and powerful cartridge could drop a beast from half a mile away. Hunters trusted it not just for meat, but for survival, its precision unmatched on the plains. A skilled marksman could strike a coin at 200 yards, and the Sharps made sure few missed twice. Every shot carried the echo of thunder and the silence that followed. But as the great herds disappeared, the rifle's glory faded with them. The weapon that tamed the wilderness became a relic of what it destroyed, a monument to accuracy and loss. And somewhere beyond the empty grasslands, steel was being shaped again, not for the hunt, but for the battlefield. LeMat Revolver, the revolver with a secret shotgun. At first glance, the LeMat Revolver looked like any other sidearm of the Civil War, but beneath its barrel hid a secret, a second smoothbore, capable of firing a 12-gauge shotgun blast. Designed in the 1850s by Jean LeMat of New Orleans, it held 9 rounds above and 1 below, offering soldiers a rare choice between precision and power. Confederate officers carried it for its versatility, switching from lead to buckshot in an instant. Its design was ingenious, but its weight, cost, and complexity kept it from mass service. Still, those who wielded it knew its value. 2 weapons in one grip, a final ace in desperate moments. When the war's smoke cleared, new hands sought a different edge. A revolver that traded mystery for speed and silence for fire. Spencer Carbine, the 7-shot Civil War marvel. When the smoke of battle thickened and reloading meant death, the Spencer Carbine changed everything. Introduced during the Civil War, it was the first repeating rifle that let a soldier fire 7 rounds before stopping. Its lever-action design transformed weary infantrymen into relentless fighters. Union troops trusted it completely, cycling rounds with a simple motion and keeping steady fire where others faltered. Even President Lincoln tested it himself and approved its production, recognizing its power to reshape the battlefield. The Spencer's speed and reliability gave the Union an edge few enemies could match. Yet progress moved fast, and newer rifles soon took its place. For a brief Brilliant moment. It ruled the war. Proof that innovation could decide survival. And in the quiet that followed, a new weapon was already taking shape, built for defiance and born for the frontier. Remington Model 1858, the outlaw's choice. When the law rode into town, the outlaws already had their answer. The Remington Model 1858, solid, balanced, and built to last, it became the trusted six-shooter of men who didn't miss twice. Unlike the open-frame Colts, its solid design allowed it to withstand repeated fire without failure. Soldiers, scouts, and gunslingers valued its strength and simplicity. It was a revolver that didn't ask for care, only confidence. Union officers carried it into battle, and drifters carried it into legend. Even after the war, its reputation endured in the hands of men like Jesse James and Wild Bill Hickok, figures who lived and died by its steel. It wasn't ornate, but it never needed to be. And as the frontier hardened, another sidearm was taking shape, forged not for fame, but for the soldiers who would tame the West. Smith & Wesson Model 3, Schofield, the cavalry sidearm. Light, fast, and built for the saddle, the Smith & Wesson Model 3 Schofield became the cavalryman's trusted ally on dusty patrols and sudden raids. Its top-break hinge let riders eject cartridges and reload in seconds. A life-saving edge when sabers flashed and gunfire answered dawn. Officers admired its crisp trigger and perfect balance. Outlaws learned to respect its precision. Chambered for metallic cartridges, it cut reload time to a heartbeat, giving soldiers and lawmen the seconds that decided survival. Though more delicate than heavier revolvers, the Schofield's speed and control won fights no court could judge. It belonged to the wrist of a rider and the story of a legend. And when its last round was fired, whispers rose of something smaller still, a pistol built for concealment, for shadows, and for endings no one saw coming. Evans' repeating rifle, the 34-shot wonder. Imagine a rifle that could fire a storm before its shooter stopped to breathe. The Evans repeating rifle did exactly that. Designed in the 1870s, it used a helical magazine hidden in the buttstock, feeding up to 28 rounds in smooth succession. In a world of single shots and slow reloads, it was a glimpse of the future. Its innovation was unmatched, but not without burden. The magazine added weight, the mechanism demanded care, and the company behind it vanished before the design could mature. Yet where the Evans appeared, it proved a new truth of battle. Volume could decide fate as surely as precision. Then, as its echo faded from the frontier, word spread of a shorter weapon taking shape, a carbine built for motion, for riders who lived with their trigger fingers ready. Merrill Carbine, the forgotten cavalry carbine. Before the Spencer and Sharps earned their fame, the Merrill Carbine thundered across Civil War battlefields. Cavalry units favored it for what mattered most: reliability. Breech loading, sturdy, and quick to reload, it delivered steady fire where chaos ruled. Its brass fittings and curved hammer lent a touch of craftsmanship, but its real strength lay in function over form. The Merrill wasn't built for glory or legend. It was built to keep a soldier alive. Rain, mud, and exhaustion rarely stopped it. As the war ended and technology advanced, the Merrill slipped quietly from service, replaced by rifles that carried its lessons forward. Many were left to gather dust in forgotten armories. And beyond those locked doors, another gunsmith worked in silence, chasing a design too advanced for its age and too bold to be remembered by name. Whitney Wolverine prototype, ahead of its time. Sleek, curved, and impossibly light, the Whitney Wolverine looked like it had slipped through time. Its alloy frame and instinctive grip spoke of speed and precision, traits few 19th century pistols could dream of. It wasn't forged for battlefields or saloons. It was born from imagination. Decades before its era, it embodied a future of firearms that valued design as much as power. Yet genius has a cruel habit of going unnoticed. Only a few were made before fortunes shifted and factories fell silent. Its spirit lingered, though, echoed in the smooth lines of modern pistols that followed. And as the Wolverine faded into quiet myth, somewhere in a gunsmith's forge, a lever began to turn. The first motion of the rifle that would one day rule them all. Henry Rifle, the original 16-shooter. When repeating rifles were rare curiosities, the Henry, arrived like a thunderclap. A 16-shot lever action that turned a single hunter into an entire firing line. Built in 1860, its brass receiver and tubular magazine beneath the barrel let men chamber round after round without the polite ritual of reloading. Settlers whispered its name. Soldiers cursed the volume it could pour into a charging flank. Before we go further, don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of the Wild West, where forgotten weapons, fierce duels, and lost inventions still echo through history's dust. Its .44 Henry rimfire round was lighter than heavy buffalo calibers, but velocity and capacity rewrote engagement tactics. Riders on the plains learned rate could equal power, and ambushes that once succeeded found their attackers cut down by a metallic tide. Yet the Henry's genius was also its burden. Fragile magazines, manufacturing limits, and the march of newer cartridges dimmed its reign. Somewhere beyond the workshop, a pistol was being sketched that would keep secrets. Allen and Wheelock Pepperbox, the multi-barrel mystery. They looked like something a tinkerer dreamed up in a tavern. The Allen and Wheelock Pepperbox was a clustered chorus of barrels, built to turn a hand into a storm of lead. Favored by frontiersmen who valued certainty over style, it traded elegance for survival. Multiple barrels, a double-action trigger, and a price far below a Colt. Offered in calibers from 22 to 36, and sometimes etched like pocket jewelry, it was both crude and beautiful. Slow to load, but fast to finish a fight, the Pepperbox earned its keep in smoky alleys and on lonely trails. Yet progress moved quickly. Metallic cartridges made its design a relic almost overnight. And as its barrels cooled, whispers began of something smaller, smoother. A pistol that could vanish as easily as it could kill. Burnside carbine. The gun that lost a general his job. Before he was a name in history books, Ambrose Burnside was an inventor, and his creation, the Burnside carbine, promised to change the way men fought. Sleek, breech-loading, and faster than the old muzzleloaders, it became the pride of early Union cavalry. Its brass cone cartridge sealed tight against gas leaks, a clever fix that impressed gunsmiths and generals alike. But in war, cleverness was fragile. Cartridges jammed, chambers fouled, and tempers flared in the field. Ironically, the man who built it rose to command armies, only to fall in the mud of Fredericksburg, his fame burned away by failure. Yet, his carbine endured, carried west by drifters, scouts, and dreamers chasing fortune. And far from the battlefields of shame, another rifle waited, stronger, simpler, forged for the unforgiving frontier ahead. Remington Rolling Block Rifle, the frontier sniper's tool. The Remington Rolling Block was honesty forged in steel, a single-shot rifle with a brutally simple soul. Point. Roll the block, close, and fire. No delicate linkages, no fragile magazines, just a stubborn fortress of iron trusted in bad weather and worse wars. Its crisp trigger and long, balanced barrel made it a favorite of soldiers, scouts, and buffalo hunters who valued precision over showmanship. Armies across continents bought it for reliability. Marksmen on the frontier cherished it for the quiet certainty of one perfect shot. It wasn't flashy, but it killed with calm intention. An engineer's poem of function over flair. And as the last echo faded from a lonely ridge in a dim workshop somewhere, a smaller dream began to take shape. One built not for battlefields, but for whispers and shadows. Star Revolver, the Union's overlooked iron. In the smoke and thunder of the Civil War, the Star Revolver fought in the shadows of Colts and Remingtons, but it was no less fierce. With its solid frame and double-action trigger, it gave soldiers speed when seconds meant life or death. Troopers praised its strength, yet cursed its stubborn mechanism, which fired fast but fouled faster. Still, the Star took punishment, mud, rain, and chaos, and kept barking when prettier guns choked. It served Union cavalrymen and scouts who valued grit over grace, steel over style. When peace returned, its maker went bankrupt, and the Star slipped quietly into history, rusted, rugged, and reliable to the end. And far from the spent camps of war, a new dream was being forged, a rifle built not for rank or regiment, but for the quiet art of precision. Ballard Rifle, the marksman's forgotten friend. Quietly, crafted in an age obsessed with volume, the Ballard Rifle was a study in controlled violence. Introduced in the 1860s, its single-shot action and careful bedding favored accuracy over rate of fire. Sharpshooters and buffalo hunters prized its fine trigger and precise regulation. Every shot demanded discipline: load, settle, breathe, and squeeze. The Ballard rewarded patience with results: long, deliberate shots that settled disputes before frantic volleys began. Its machining was clean, its barrel true, and in capable hands it could make distant targets vanish with an unnerving economy. Yet industry moved toward repeaters, and the Ballard's quiet excellence was crowded out by louder, faster designs. It never sought headlines. It sought groups and inches on a distant bullseye. And while its echo thinned across the plains, somewhere a new carbine was being sketched, destined to transform how men carried metal into battle. Joslin Carbine, the first metallic cartridge gun. The Joslin Carbine arrived like progress in polished brass, a weapon that made the old ways feel instantly ancient. For the first time, soldiers could load a true metallic cartridge, powder and bullet, sealed together in one clean, weatherproof shell. Born in the 1850s and tested through the Civil War, its breech-loading action gave cavalrymen the gift of speed. Fire, flip, reload, repeat. Scouts swore it cut reload time to heartbeats, a miracle when chaos closed in. But brilliance came at a cost. Parts jammed, production faltered, and the Army's love shifted to cheaper, simpler guns. Still, the Joslin spark lit the future. It proved the cartridge was king, and war would never go back to paper and powder. And as its echo faded, another inventor reached for perfection, shaping steel into something soldiers would soon call holy. Colt Root Sidehammer, the odd Colt that time forgot. The Colt Root Sidehammer was Samuel Colt's quiet experiment, a revolver that thought more than it roared. Born in the 1850s, it was his only solid frame design, its peculiar side-mounted hammer turning heads and raising eyebrows across gunsmith benches. Every line of the Root spoke of craftsmanship: slim frame, polished finish, and an engineer's obsession with precision. But the Frontier had little patience for delicacy. Its fine parts fouled easily, and its grace meant nothing to men who needed speed over style. Still, it marked Colt's restless creativity, a bridge between art and firepower, too refined for the chaos it tried to tame. When the Peacemaker rose, the Root faded into the collector's cabinet, a whisper of what might have been. And in the dim glow of a saloon lamp, a gambler's pistol was being born, one made for secrets, luck, and sudden endings. Remington Derringer, the saloon gambler's last chance. In the smoky glow of saloon lamps, where fortunes changed with every flip of a card, the Remington Derringer waited quietly beneath the table, small enough to vanish in a gambler's palm, yet loud enough to silence a room. It was the ultimate ace in the hole. Introduced in 1866, its over-under twin barrels packed a deadly punch at close range, a pocket-sized promise that no insult would go unanswered. Ladies carried it in garters, barkeeps in aprons, and drifters in their boots. It wasn't built for duels at dawn, but for desperate seconds in dim light, where survival came down to surprise. The Derringer's legacy wasn't power, it was timing. One pull, one flash, one heartbeat. And somewhere beyond the saloons and secrets, a new rifle was taking shape. One so silent and sleek it seemed carved from shadow itself. Sharp's Borchardt, model 1878, the silent assassin of the West. The Sharp's Borchardt model of 1878 was the kind of rifle that made distance a weapon. Built for precision, it married the famous Sharp's falling block action with Borchardt's refinements, producing a rifle that a marksman could trust to kill cleanly at long ranges when others groped for another shot. Hunters and hired shooters favored its superb lockup, tight tolerances, and calm, predictable trigger, the opposite of the thunderous, unruly big-bore rifles that barked and scattered. In the hands of a steady eye, it was poetry. One measured breath, one slow squeeze, and a storm of fur or flesh fell where aimed. As the bison thinned and battles moved on, the Sharp's Borchardt slipped into the smoke of history, a cold, accurate ghost. Beyond the lonely horizon, though, a braised idea was cooling on a bench. A pistol built to cram more fire into a smaller frame, and its first impatient sketches were already hungry for powder. Remington Beale's Navy Revolver, the prototype legend. Before mass production smiles and glossy catalog pages, the Remington Beale's Navy Revolver prowled the workshops as a bold prototype, a testbed for ideas that would shape service pistols to come. Built with naval officers in mind, it blended stout construction with an eye for balance. A roomy grip, a heavy barrel for steady aim, and an action that felt like a promise in the hand. Few ever saw one outside arsenals. Fewer still fired it in anger. Its true legacy wasn't battlefield fame, but the lessons it whispered to engineers: how to marry durability with service readiness. When factories folded or contracts changed, the Beals slipped from dispatches into private collections, its story half told. And yet, in the shadow of that unfinished chapter, someone filed a new patent, a compact marvel with a hidden simplicity that would find its way into pockets and palms. What shadow design followed next, waiting to be drawn and fired? Volcanic rifle, the precursor to the Winchester Empire. The volcanic rifle looked like a promise someone had half whispered into metal. Tubular magazine under the barrel, a slim profile, and ammunition that tried to do the impossible: carry powder and bullet as one. Early buyers admired its capacity and sleek lines. Dreamers saw a repeater that might end the slow, brutal ritual of single-shot warfare. But the Volcanic's clever, caseless rocket ball lacked the punch to stop much of anything, and its magazine, innovative as it was, could become a catastrophic hazard if jolted or mishandled. Production woes and weak ballistics sank the company, yet the rifle's daring idea didn't die. Its skeleton of a design found sharper minds and sturdier cartridges, and from that uneasy marriage was born a repeating rifle that would change planes and politics alike. A stained workbench still held the next man's notes, a quiet paper that, once unfolded, would roar louder than any rifle yet. Smith & Wesson Model 1, the tiny gun that changed everything. Small enough to hide in a waistcoat, the Smith & Wesson Model 1 seemed harmless until it spoke. Introduced in the early 1850s, this delicate revolver brought true convenience to personal defense. Compact, light, and the first widely successful use of metallic rimfire cartridges. For townsfolk, sailors, and quick-thinking gamblers, it was a revolution folded into the palm. No loose powder, no awkward loading, just a flick and a flash. Its crisp action and surprising reliability made it a favorite when every second counted, and its presence in countless holsters rewired how people carried danger. It didn't win fame for range or roar, but for a new promise that a man could carry certainty in his pocket. Beyond the clink of coins and the hiss of cartridges, a darker design was being sketched, quieter, flatter, and shaped to vanish beneath the sleeve. What finds it first will learn how easily a secret can end a life. If you enjoyed this deep dive, subscribe for more forgotten firearms and frontier stories. Gallagher Carbine, the puzzle gun soldiers hated. The Gallagher Carbine looked like a clever answer to a soldier's prayer. A breech-loading, rapid-fire carbine that promised faster follow-ups than a muzzleloader and simpler maintenance than some repeaters. Its revolving breech block loaded cartridges quickly, and cavalrymen who tried it appreciated the idea. More shots before an enemy closed. But the charm stopped there. In dusty fields and muddy camps, the Gallagher's mechanism turned from clever to cruel. Fouling, misalignment, and stubborn jams made it a liability when seconds decided life or death. Troops who depended on brute reliability scorned its complexity. Commanders who paid the bills called it inconsistent. Still, for a brief, furious moment, it pushed the frontier toward faster fire, a stepping stone in a march that refused to stop. And as men shoveled the Gallagher into crates, a new steel whisper crept through arsenals, a bolt that would click into place and change how wars were won. Remington Keen Rifle, the first bolt action of the frontier. The Remington Keen Rifle was a quiet revolution disguised as simplicity. In an era when liver actions ruled the plains and revolvers sang in every saloon, this weapon dared to introduce something new: the bolt action. Its design offered precision and strength, trading speed for deadly accuracy, a trait appreciated by scouts, hunters, and lawmen who favored one perfect shot over many reckless ones. Built tough enough for the harshest terrain, it marked the dawn of a new mechanical mindset, where engineering precision began to challenge cowboy flair. Though it never gained the fame of the Winchester or the Colt, its innovation carved a small but vital place in firearm history. This is where its story ends, a frontier experiment that stood quietly behind legends, reminding us that even in the loudest age, Progress often speaks in silence. From hand cannons to bolt-action marvels, each of these forgotten weapons helped shape the brutal poetry of the Wild West, where every pull of the trigger could write or erase a man's name from history. These guns weren't just tools. They were extensions of survival, courage, and rebellion forged in the dust and fire of a young America. If you enjoyed uncovering the truth behind these lost legends, subscribe for more tales buried beneath the sands of time, where forgotten weapons, outlaws, and heroes still whisper their stories through the smoke of the past. The West may have been won, but its secrets are far from finished.